With their 2024 vehicle, the W15, Toto Wolff and his Mercedes crew are all in. The Brackley-based team and engineers are creating a masterpiece of a car to fix the shortcomings and subpar performance of the present W14 chassis, making it a race-winning machine in an attempt to take on the formidable Red Bull cars in the upcoming season. So stay tuned until the very end, and I'll fill you in on every detail about the W15 vehicle. The Mercedes team principal, Toto Wolff, has issued a warning to rivals in Formula One by stating that the Mercedes W15, scheduled for introduction in 2024, will outperform the W14 by 2.5 seconds. Wolff's remarks follow a season in which Mercedes-sponsored Aston Martin emerged as a strong challenger to Red Bull after initially exhibiting early promise. Wolff benefited from this rivalry since it clarified the performance of their rear-end and power unit components. As everyone has witnessed, Aston Martin dominated the early going, regularly clinching pole positions with Fernando Alonso behind the wheel, and McLaren emerged as Red Bull's main rival for the latter half of the season. Given that both teams are Mercedes customers, this bolsters Wolff's assertion that the Mercedes engine is capable of winning races. Currently, Silver Arrow's complete W14 automobile concept doesn't function all that well as a cohesive whole, which is the problem. The head of Mercedes feels that Aston Martin's ascent from a dismal 7th place in the 2022 Constructors' Standings to a race against Red Bull has served as a major source of inspiration for the Brackley team. That step that Aston Martin made from last year being among the slowest team to the beginning of the season being clearly number 2, it shows that if you unlock potential, then you can have a big step forward. Not just bolting on a 10th of downforce, and this is just what we need to find. Mercedes did not get even a single win in 2023 for the first time since 2011. Starting in Monaco, a B-spec layout took the place of the original configuration in the 2023 season. Beginning in 2022, Mercedes came up with the most innovative notion for their new technical rules, but they weren't the only ones to go through numerous revisions. But as time has gone on, the car's looks have become more and more similar, with Red Bull's winning design acting as a template for other designers. The most recent example is the McLaren MCL 60, which used Red Bull's downwash concept to achieve significant performance advantage following the summer break. Wolff went on to claim Mercedes's 2024 design will be somewhat similar to current cars on the grid, but with unique touch from the engineers at the Silver Arrow's headquarters. "I think we were bold and courageous to embark on the road with such a car," he told Planet1.com. "That was a different concept that nobody else had had before, and it didn't work. I think it's as simple as that. It's physics and not mystics. Next year's car is going to be more conventional in what you would expect from a Formula One car, but there are a few interesting details that we have not seen on other cars yet." Still, Mercedes' season has improved, if not significantly in terms of appearance. Instead of using the zero-pod W14 for the Monaco Grand Prix, they used a side pod with downwashing design that was a little bit like Red Bull's. After the 5 races prior to Monaco, Mercedes had averaged 19.2 points per race. After the zero pods were dropped, they averaged 18.4 points each race. If anything, their failure to use the zero pods cost them 0.8 points every race. It's definitely not an improvement, even though it's not a huge change by any means. The lack of a noticeable improvement in form with the redesigned side pods was partially due to the team's unreliable chassis. Their aero construction with zero-pod side pods was designed to be supported by an aero chassis. The impact structure protruded in several places, and the suspension setup, which has a big impact on the overall aero profile, was off. The dearth of advancement Mercedes had following the abandonment of the zero-pod concept serves as the finest illustration of why copying an idea is insufficient in Formula One. It appears as though Mercedes is attempting to combine the greatest features from several automobiles to create one cohesive car. That simply won't work in the slightest. To get the ideal suspension setup, underfloor aerodynamics, and side pod designs for the W15 car, they must start from scratch and develop the vehicle with the RB19 concept in mind. It is not as simple as it seems. In a subsequent interview, Hamilton stated that the team was just unaware of the car's issues for the entire period, and nobody was precisely sure how to resolve the issue that worsened the W13 and W14 vehicles. That last statement pretty much sums up Mercedes' entire year. They knew the car was broken once the side pods were replaced, but they didn't know what to do next. Even with the best of intentions, they have made countless upgrades to the W14, but they are unable to pinpoint the problems they are trying to fix. Prior to the 2022 introduction of ground effect flooring, Mercedes' engines dominated the sport, while the rest of the grid innovated by elevating the back of the car higher than the front. Mercedes maintained a very low rake. Their lack of innovation in the rules at the time was the main factor in others who eventually caught up to them in 2021, and Lewis's eventual loss of his record-breaking 8th Drivers' Championship. The lack of imagination in the previous regulations should have been a warning sign from the beginning with the new ones. The Mercedes technical team's lack of advancement throughout the 2 years of the ground effect regulations is proof that they are not as smart as their opponents at the top of the grid. Undoubtedly, they have evolved, but not in a positive way. Then how will the group improve matters by 2024? That is, if you build a completely new car from scratch. Since the zero pods are no longer a problem, Mercedes can now create an entirely new design for their 2024 vehicle. Whether or if this is a positive thing will depend on how much the squad has actually learnt over the last 2 years. "We are changing the concept," said Wolff. "We are completely moving away from how we laid out the chassis, the weight distribution, the airflow. I mean literally, there's almost every component that's being changed, because only by doing that, I think we have a chance." When asked about the risk associated with changing their development path and going into a new direction with the W15, Wolff further added, "We could get it wrong also. So between not gaining what we expect, catching up and making a big step and competing in the front, everything is possible." Mercedes has the chance to truly imitate Red Bull for 2024 with a thorough redesign, as opposed to merely slapping on their side pods. A few features of the RB19 in particular will catch the attention of the Brackley-based team. It was believed that Red Bull's triple diffuser was the key to their incredible success at the start of 2023. With the DRS open, they reportedly enjoyed a phenomenal speed advantage. It was also mentioned that their suspension is the reason their tires endure for so long. But you can't just clone the RB19's rear end and expect the same results. Consequently, if your floor and side pods don't, your diffuser, beam wing, and rear wing won't function the same as Red Bull's. Similarly, if your front wing and suspension system aren't working right, your floor and side pods won't perform like Red Bull's. You see, everything is interrelated, so trying to duplicate just one thing would not provide the same outcomes. This is demonstrated by Mercedes losing 0.8 points per race after copying Red Bull's side pods. Therefore, even though Wolff has made it clear that they are giving up on the zero pod concept entirely and switching to a design philosophy more influenced by Red Bull, it is unclear if they will be able to achieve the same success as their client teams, Aston Martin and McLaren, or if 2024 will end up being yet another disastrous year for the team. As we conclude today's video, the question looms: will Mercedes pose a serious challenge to Red Bull in the upcoming season? Or are they headed for another tumultuous year? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon to stay tuned for more updates.